In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 things that recruiters don't want to see on your CV. And by watching this video, you will learn what things that you could possibly have on your CV right now that are possibly hurting your chances of getting that job. My next video is going to be things that recruiters do want to see on your CV, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that YouTube can let you know when that video is released. So the first thing that recruiters don't want to see is a vague objective statement. Now, this is a very common thing to have on one's CV, especially in the modern age, of the thing that describes your objective. An objective statement is highly recommended to have on your CV, but a vague objective statement does absolutely nothing for you. The recruiters have heard all sorts of cliches, and you know what, they're pretty tired of this one. So what you could do is either leave it out completely if you don't know what to say, and if you are going to put it, make sure that you make a really good objective statement. Otherwise, you're just wasting everybody's time. Recruiters only have a couple of minutes to look through your CV, so you don't want to waste their time by including things on your CV that are detracting away from things that you do want them to see. So the next thing recruiters don't want to see is irrelevant personal information. This is usually an old school thing that people do where they put hobbies on their CV, things like knitting, swimming, these random irrelevant personal details about you that have nothing to do with the job and the industry that you're applying for and are not enhancing you. Time for your personality to shine and come through will be in the interview. Do not do this on your CV. Just don't do it. They also do not want to see unexplained gaps on your CV. Life is complicated and we all go through ups and downs where things happen that we don't expect. But if you have a gap in your CV, you need to explain it. So what they'll do is they'll look through your CV in a chronological time order, and if there's a whole section like you just didn't include 2017, they'll be like, okay, well, what was happening here? And you're not explaining it. Now they have to call you and figure out and find out what happened, and sometimes they'll just, be like, I don't have time for this, and they'll skip on and move on to the next candidate. So you don't want to do this. So if you do have any gaps on your CV, make sure to put the time frame that, maybe you were not working or something was happening, and have a brief explanation of what happened. The last thing you want is for a recruiter to have question marks in their head that your CV doesn't answer, and that leads them to skip over to the next candidate and be done with you. They also don't want to see fancy fonts or creative format. I know you're trying to be different and you're trying to stand out. In fact, if you want to know how to stand out as a job seeker, I've made a video just on that, so I have a link for that video at the end of this video. But other than that, this is not a creative project, this is not a graphic design project unless you're applying in that industry. Of course, then by all means be as creative as you want. But if it is a regular, straightforward job, there is absolutely no need. And in fact, most recruiters use applicant tracking software, and once your CV goes through that software, it extracts all the data. So they're not even going to see all those edits, and it's just going to be a mess. And a lot of the time, it makes the applicant tracking software not able to pick up the relevant information, and it might have some sections missing, and the recruiter will just move on because they don't have time to figure this out. So please just keep it straightforward and simple. And the last thing they don't want to see is a messy, untidy CV. Now, by messy, I obviously don't mean it's scrunched up and whatever, but I have actually seen for myself some CVs where people use different fonts, different sizes. It's just really inconsistent on your CV. Now, this really hurts your chances because your CV is your one professional document that you have to get the job, and if you can't take pride in it and make sure it's as perfect as you can get it to be, that shows that you are just not someone who pays attention to detail, and this is not a good sign. If you can't spell check the fonts, check the formatting, that really says a lot about you. So please make sure you go through it, maybe have a friend look at it or somebody else to make sure that your fonts, texting, everything else is really consistent on your CV. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So I hope that you've learned some of the wrong things that you shouldn't do. Like I said, I will have a video coming up on the things that you should be including on your CV. So please subscribe so that you don't miss that video. The next video that you can watch if you haven't already watched it is how to stand out as a job seeker. I know that a lot of us often use our CVs to stand out and try to be creative, but that is not usually a good idea, and there are some much better things that you could do to stand out. So watch that video next.